Mainstream Greek religion is a polytheistic religion that appears to have developed out of Proto-Indo-European religion, and although very little is known about the earliest periods, there are suggestive hints that some local elements go back further than 5,000 years. Although its origins may be traced to the remotest eras, Greek religion in its developed form lasted more than 1,000 years, from the time of Homer, probably 9th or 8th century BCE, to the reign of Emperor Julian, around 4th century CE. During that period, its influence spread as far west as Spain, east to the Indus Valley, and throughout the Mediterranean world. Its effect was most marked on the Romans, who identified their deities with those of the Greeks. Under Christianity, Greek heroes and even deities survived as saints, while the rival Madonnas of southern European communities reflected the independence of local cults. The rediscovery of Greek literature during the Renaissance, and above all, the novel perfection of classical sculpture produced a revolution in taste that had far-reaching effects on Christian religious art. The most striking characteristic of Greek religion was the belief in a multiplicity of anthropomorphic deities under one supreme god. Priests simply looked after cults. They did not constitute a clergy, and there were no sacred books. When the Roman Republic conquered Greece in 146 BCE, it took much of Greek religion, along with many other aspects of Greek culture, such as literary and architectural styles, and incorporated it into its own. The Greek gods were equated with the ancient Roman deities: Zeus with Jupiter, Hera with Juno, Poseidon with Neptune, Aphrodite with Venus, Ares with Mars, Artemis with Diana, Athena with Minerva, Hermes with Mercury, Hephaestus with Vulcan, Hestia with Vesta, Demeter with Ceres, Hades with Pluto, and Pan with Faunus. Some of the gods, such as Apollo and Bacchus, had earlier been adopted by the Romans. There were also many deities that existed in the Roman religion before its interaction with Greece that were not associated with a Greek deity, including Janus and Quirinius. The initial decline of Greco-Roman polytheism was due in part to its syncretic nature, assimilating beliefs and practices from a variety of foreign religious traditions as the Roman Empire expanded. Greco-Roman philosophical schools incorporated elements of Judaism and early Christianity, and mystery religions like Mithraism also became increasingly popular. Constantine I became the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, and the Edict of Milan in 313 CE enacted official tolerance for Christianity within the empire. Still, in Greece and elsewhere, there is evidence that pagan and Christian communities remained essentially segregated from each other, with little cultural influence flowing between the two. Urban pagans continued to utilize the civic centers and temple complexes, while Christians set up their own new places of worship in suburban areas of cities. Contrary to some older scholarship, newly converted Christians did not simply continue worshiping in converted temples. Rather, new Christian communities were formed as older pagan communities declined and were eventually suppressed and disbanded. Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions. It is a multi-tendency faith centered on a dualistic cosmology of good and evil and an eschatology predicting the ultimate conquest of evil with theological elements of henotheism, monotheism, and polytheism. Ascribed to the teachings of the Iranian-speaking spiritual leader Zoroaster, it exalts an uncreated and benevolent deity of wisdom, Ahura Mazda, as its supreme being. Major features of Zoroastrianism, such as messianism, judgment after death, heaven and hell, and free will, may have influenced other religious and philosophical systems, including the Second Temple Judaism, Gnosticism, Greek philosophy, Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. With possible roots dating back to the second millennium BCE, Zoroastrianism enters recorded history in the 5th century BCE. Zoroastrianism was adopted by the Persian Empire, the Parthian Empire, and found its fullest expression under the Sasanian Empire. The Sasanians made Zoroastrianism the state religion while at the same time developing a different branch of the faith, usually referred to as a heresy, known as Zorvanism. After the Muslim Arab invasion in 651 CE, Zoroastrians were persecuted, the faith suppressed, and the religious sites destroyed or turned into mosques. Zoroastrianism survived, however, though adherents were greatly reduced in number, and continues to be observed in the present day. Jainism dates to the 6th century BCE in India. The religion derives its name from the Jinas, meaning conquerors, a title given to 24 great teachers through whom their faith was revealed. Mahavira, the last of the teachers, is considered the founder of Jainism. An early schism occurred that lasts to the present day over certain aspects of monastic discipline. The Skavatam sect believed that monks and nuns should wear white robes, whereas the Digambaras believe that monks should wear no clothes. The latter group is also differentiated by its belief that a female cannot attain liberation. The schism was further cemented when the Skavatam met in a council to fix the Jain canon of scriptures in 456 CE. The Digambaras were excluded from the council, and they later rejected the decisions of the council. In the period of the 4th through 6th centuries CE, the Jain community migrated westward, eventually settling in western and central India. Jainism was more influential in its new area than it was in the area of its birth. The Digambaras settled in the south, where they enjoyed much political favor. Many scholars argue that Hinduism, known to adherents as Sanatana Dharma, or the Eternal Order, is the oldest religion on earth, founded as early as 5500 BCE. Hinduism is a fusion of various Indian cultures and traditions. Among the roots of Hinduism are the historical Vedic religion of Iron Age India, itself already the product of a composite of Indo-Aryan and Harappan cultures and civilizations, and Mesolithic and Neolithic cultures of India, such as the religions of the Indus Valley Civilization. This Hindu fusion emerged after the Vedic period between 500 BCE and 300 CE. Although often viewed as a polytheistic faith, Hinduism is actually henotheistic. There is only one supreme God in Hinduism, Brahma, and all other deities are his aspects and reflections. Since Brahma is too immense a concept for the human mind to comprehend, he presents himself in the many different versions of himself, which people recognize as deities such as Vishnu, Shiva, and the many others. The Hindu belief system includes 330 million gods, and these range from those who are known at a national level, such as Krishna, to lesser-known local deities. Confucianism developed from the teachings of the Chinese philosopher Confucius, which lived between 551 and 479 BCE. It is a system of thought and behavior originating in ancient China and variously described as tradition, a philosophy, a religion, a humanistic or rationalistic religion, a way of governing, or simply a way of life. Confucianism may be identified as a continuation of the Shangzhou official religion or the Chinese Aboriginal religion, which has lasted uninterrupted for 3,000 years. The terms Confucianism and Confucian are not meaningful terms in Chinese. They are Western terms, coined by 16th century Jesuit missionaries in China. Confucianism has deeply influenced spiritual and political life in China. Its influence has also extended to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. East Asians may profess themselves to be Shintoists, Taoists, Buddhists, Muslims, or Christians, but seldom do they cease to be Confucians. Confucianism would engage in a historic push and pull with the philosophies of Buddhism and Taoism, experiencing ebbs and flows in influence with high points during the Han, Tang, and Song dynasties. As Buddhism became the dominant spiritual force in China, Confucianism declined in practice. And with the emergence of communism and Maoism in the 20th century, the mainstream practice of Confucianism was largely at an end. The history of Buddhism spans from the 5th century BCE to the present. Buddhism arose in the eastern part of ancient India in and around the ancient kingdom of Magadha, and is based on the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama. This makes it one of the oldest religions practiced today. The religion evolved as it spread from the northeastern region of the Indian subcontinent through Central, East, and Southeast Asia. At one time or another, it influenced most of the Asian continent. The history of Buddhism is also characterized by the development of numerous movements, schisms, and schools, with contrasting periods of expansion and retreat. By the 3rd century BCE, the picture we have of Buddhism is very different. The Mauryan Indian Emperor Asoka the Great, who ruled from 268 to 232 BCE, turned Buddhism into the state religion of India. He provided a favorable social and political climate for the acceptance of Buddhist ideas, encouraged Buddhist missionary activity, and even generated among Buddhist monks certain expectations of patronage and influence on the machinery of political decision-making. Archaeological evidence for Buddhism between the death of the Buddha and the time of Asoka is scarce. After the time of Asoka, it is abundant. During the 1st century CE, while the oldest Buddhist groups were growing in the South and Southeast Asia, a new Buddhist school named Mahayana originated in northern India. This school had a more adaptable approach and was open to doctrinal innovations. Mahayana Buddhism is today the dominant form of Buddhism in Nepal, Tibet, China, Japan, Mongolia, Korea, and Vietnam. Christianity is a monotheistic religion based on the life and teaching of Jesus of Nazareth. Christianity teaches that Jesus is the Son of God and the Messiah, the Savior of humanity foretold in the Torah, the primary scriptural doctrine of the Jewish faith. Christian scripture incorporates both the Torah, referred to by Christians as the Old Testament, with the story of Jesus, his teachings, and those of his contemporaneous disciples. That's the New Testament. These form the Bible, the central text of the Christian faith. Christianity began in Jerusalem as an outgrowth of Judaism that considered Jesus the Christ. This idea and its adherents spread rapidly through ancient Judea around the 1st century CE, then throughout the ancient world. Christianity has seen countless Reformation movements which spawned innumerable sects and offshoot denominations. Far too many forms of practice exist to be named in one place, but the faith's 3 largest branches are Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism. Combined, Christianity is the largest religion in the world, with roughly 2.4 billion adherents, or 33% of the total population. Its impact on the shape of world history and on present-day world culture is incalculable. The earliest origins of Gnosticism are obscure and still disputed. The proto-Orthodox Christian groups called Gnostics a heresy of Christianity, but according to the modern scholars, the theology's origin is closely related to Jewish sectarian milieux and early Christian sects. As Christianity developed and became more popular, so did Gnosticism, with both proto-Orthodox Christian and Gnostic Christian groups often existing in the same places. The Gnostic belief was widespread within Christianity until the proto-Orthodox Christian communities expelled the group in the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE. Some scholars prefer to speak of gnosis when referring to 1st century ideas that later developed into Gnosticism, and to reserve the term Gnosticism for the synthesis of these ideas into a coherent movement in the 2nd century. No Gnostic texts clearly predate Christianity. However, the Nag Hammadi library contained Hermetic teachings that can be argued to go back to the Old Egyptian kingdom. Gnosticism likely refers not to a single religious orientation, but to an interreligious phenomenon in which various groups across an array of regions evolved to a similar set of beliefs and ideas. A term adapted in modern historical discourse, Gnosticism concerns the variety of religious systems and beliefs in the ancient world that emerged from the Judeo-Christian tradition. These belief systems held that emanations from a single God were responsible for the creation of the material world, and that, as such, all humans carried the divine spark of God. Gnosticism is dualistic and draws sharp divides between the superior spiritual world and the inferior material world, with the gaining or receiving of special hidden knowledge, allowing transcendence from one realm to another. Shinto is a religious tradition native to Japan. Initially an informal collection of beliefs and mythologies, Shinto was less a religion than a distinctly Japanese form of cultural observance. The first recorded use of the term Shinto can be traced to the 6th century CE and is essentially the connective tissue between ancient Japanese customs and modern Japanese life. The primary focus of Shinto is the native belief in kami and interaction with them through public shrines. These shrines are essential artifacts of and channel for Shinto observation. More than 80,000 Shinto shrines dot Japan. Traditional Japanese styles of dress, dance, and ritual are also rooted in Shinto customs. Shinto is unique among religions. As a reflection of Japanese identity, Shinto observance is not necessarily limited to those who view themselves as religious adherents. Roughly 3 to 4% of the Japanese population identifies as being part of a Shinto sect or congregation. By contrast, in a 2008 survey, roughly 26% of Japanese citizens reported visiting Shinto shrines. Islam is a monotheistic religion that, like Christianity and Judaism, traces its roots to the Garden of Eden, Adam, and the prophet Abraham. Islam teaches that Allah is the only God and that Muhammad is his messenger. Islam holds that God spoke to Muhammad through the Archangel Gabriel sometime around 600 CE, delivering the revelations that would form the Quran. The Islamic faith proliferated rapidly through the Middle East, particularly around the 3 holiest sites of the faith: Mecca, where an awakened Muhammad made his first pilgrimage; Medina, the center of early Islamic faith under Muhammad's leadership; and Jerusalem, the spiritual capital of the ancient world. In the centuries to follow, Islam would simultaneously produce countless wars of succession and a growing sense of spiritual unity within the Arab world. The dichotomy between internal conflict and cultural unity remains a presence in the Islamic faith today. The dichotomy would also give way to a division between the 2 dominant sects of Islam, Sunni and Shia. Today, Islam is the dominant faith for large swaths of geography, particularly in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and North Africa. With more than 1.6 billion adherents, Islam is the 2nd largest religion in the world and the chief spiritual identity for more than 24% of the world's population.